Today I had the most wonderful of days. I want to share this with you. Tell you what I did and how I learned and how I have every day. There's learn. I learned something new. I learned something new. And I'll tell you what happened today. I was enjoying so thoroughly this story about Jamaal Bowman. Jamaal Bowman, as you know, is the congressperson who apparently, ostensibly, obviously, pulled a fire alarm to stop, in essence, the progress of what was going on, a vote or what have you. It's very important to note this. Does this sound familiar to you? Oh, it should. Oh, it should, pray tell. It should sound very familiar to you. The idea of stopping this wonderful event. What does that sound like? It sounds very much. It sounds like what happened during January 6th. It sounds as though it is a version of some form of an interference with a public uh, 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 law, some legal process. It was an interference with the procedure, the process, the ongoing. You got it? Does this sound familiar to you? Does this sound familiar to you? This is what the basis of the January 6th, those individuals who were involved in their various events that they were interfering with. They deliberately did something. It wasn't that they were just, raising hell and trespassing. No, they were obstructionists. But if you read the seditious conspiracy statute, and that really wouldn't apply to him necessarily because it was only one, and I'll explain maybe one particular way to get around that theory, but it's the you're interfering with the process, the application, a law. This is insurrection. Now, he's got to be conspiring with. One could argue that maybe if there's any proof that he did this with other people, that he advised other people, or one could look at this kind of a post hoc rationalization that occurred afterwards where he explained in this most pathetic of ways is absolutely this the height of mendacity where he said, I was confused. This was a door. I thought the door was locked. I thought by pulling the door, by pulling this button which said alarm, I thought I was under the belief that would involve necessarily the opening of the door. I mean, this is okay. Stop right there. Nothing's going to happen to him. Nothing's going to happen to him. Nothing. We can talk about this all day long. I did a rendition of my thoughts on this, basically holding my nose because it is BS. I spent some wonderful time today tooling about, and I went and bought some different things, and I have in my I have these kind of audacity. You listen to books and things like that. And I want to bring you to attention. This is a 2005 book called On. It's Bull BS. It's on Bull BS, and by a Princeton philosophy professor, I believe, Harry G. Frankfurt, and it was so wonderful. Today, like I said, was just a beautiful day of just listening to wonderful theories and just enjoying this. I heard and read one of the best articles ever by Roger Kimball, who is I think my absolute favorite in terms of political commentators. He is without peer. He writes for the New Criterion. in fact, I did a piece on my private channel where I was breaking this down, and he takes exactly what I thought regarding Bobby Kennedy and how he is going to chip away from the Democrats. Okay, so put all of this together, and my brain, my mind was, it was such clarity today. I see it. I see what's happening. Then, interestingly enough, I had a wonderful piece, a wonderful lecture by Mr. Kimball regarding Leszek Kolakowski. And this was one of the best pieces ever, and I commend him to you, especially for those people who are wondering, what is this Marxism they're talking about? What is this Marxism? We keep using the word Marxist. Well, this was an avowed communist, Polish, thrown out of the party. What does this mean? What does all of this mean? So I'm giving you kind of like a hodgepodge, but you can handle it because all of these things are very, very important. We're going to be talking about this tonight. We're going to be talking about a lot of things, what you need to know, and what each of these means. We're not going to break it down to the usual kind of jokes or laughing. We're going to talk about what this means. And that's one of the most important things ever, to tell you what something means. But before we begin, my friend, I want to say, please like this video. Please subscribe to the channel. You know how important all of this is. It's so critical. I don't want to talk to you about I'm sorry, the I guess the movement, the home food preparedness movement, which is kind of like a no-brainer, and the reaction and the emails I'm getting from people thanking me, who proudly take pictures. And please, when you purchase your preparewithlionel.com, especially the new 25% savings off of a 3-month emergency food kit, show me where you have stored this modularly perfect. In fact, show me your other Prepare with Lionel storage units as well, because this is something which is again, it goes to show you how many people think this is some kind of a weird extravagance, or that it's some kind of a conspiracy theorist. Your food, I don't know, because only you would know this because you read the news with what China is doing. People are buying in terms of farmland and grain. Something could go wrong, among others. I don't have to go through the litany of possibilities. Preparewithlionel.com, 25-year shelf life, 21 varieties, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack. It's the most important thing in the world to do. Please go to preparewithlionel.com. When you purchase this, send me a photo. I won't publish it, but show me and tell me. People are saying thank you, because it's like there it is in your garage. And that's, by the way, that's a start, but it's something. It's something you know you have. Preparewithlionel.com, preparewithlionel.com. Save 25% off a 3-month emergency food kit order. Preparewithlionel.com. Do it now. Ring in October wisely. And don't forget to send me a picture so you and I can chat about your glory. Okay, let's go back to this. Now, we could talk, obviously, about this lunacy, and we can make fun of him. Kind of interesting story. This is the man who says, I had no idea how these alarms work. Do you know what he did before? He was a teacher, kind of a principal. Did you know that? Principals kind of know this stuff about doors and locking. Interesting thing. I did a little background on Mr. Bowman, and just reading his of course, that renowned bastion of truth, Wikipedia. He was, interestingly enough, he's a former principal of the Cornerstone Academy for Social Action, a public middle school in Eastchester in the Bronx, and he's a member of the Lower Hudson Valley chapter of the Democratic Socialists of America. Interesting. And he defeated a 16-term incumbent, Elliot Engel, and he's a member of the Squad, a faction of Progressive House. This is the Squad. And there was a group of 8 Democratic members, interestingly enough, called the Squad. The name of the Squad was, anyway, so he is what he is. Okay, fine. Now, the story is going back to Frankfurt. BS. Complete and total BS. And your favorite, your girlfriend, AOC, suggested that she said, pull another one or something. She basically is acceding and standing up in favor of this man. Now, we're not going to belabor the point because, as you know, nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen, dear friends. Nothing's going to happen. I'm sorry to say this. I'm going to break it to you, but nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen to him. Nothing. If it was a Republican, he would have been charged. He would be as we speak, he would be having body cavity searches as we speak. He would be hosed down. It would be like he would be in a gulag. It would be the most horrific of horrors. And Mr. Bowman thinks he's, to use Kimball's reference, citing Saul Bellow, he thinks he is as smooth as a suppository. Well, in fact, he's not. And we know it, and we're used to it, and that sort of thing. But this is what we're up against. This is it. And the irony of this, and what is going to happen, and what you should take to the bank, so to speak, is that nothing will happen from this. It will be in effect unaffected. Nothing will happen at all. Nobody will care about this. And dear friends, we lose again by virtue of the fact that our side has no guts, no C.O. Jones, no backbone. The Republicans, I guess they represent, that's kind of our side, even though we're not Republicans per se, but they are impuissant. They are atesticular. They are without any form of, or any degree of honor, guts. There's no, they don't have anything. If you listen to this mealy-mouthed Kevin McCarthy, and I'm sad to say, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and to an extent Matt Gaetz, there's a lot of what he's saying that's absolutely true. I don't know if it's the best way to do it. So let's just talk about that and realize and recognize the fact that this is over, dear friends. This is over. Mr. Jamaal Bowman will be considered, he's an insurrectionist, call it what it is. He will be lauded by his fellow Democratic Socialists and the like. They're high-fiving him in the cloakroom wherever they hang out. You know it, and I know it. And for him to lie with this specious explication shows an utter contempt for you. An utter, palpable, tangible contempt for you. He hates you. You're not worthy of the truth. He's laughing at you. How dare you? You're nothing. Okay. Now, my friends, that's it. Let me say this again. Nothing will happen. Nothing will happen. Mr. Bowman will not be censured. There'll be some titular theoretical reference. This lying, he might even use a speech and debate clause. He might maybe construe the fact that pulling that was a form of speech. I don't know. But nothing will happen. Let me say this again. The Republicans don't ever do anything. Nothing will happen. Let me say that again. Nothing will happen. Nothing. Do you understand what that means? Do you get that? They don't fear us, them, anyone. No one cares. We mean nothing. I'm going to throw myself into this mix. We have done nothing. Do you hear what I'm saying? We have done nothing. We stand for, I don't know what we stand for. A lot of symbolism, flags and God and Bibles and babies and fetuses and guns and Lee Greenwood and things, I guess, but we don't do anything. We have no guts. We have no guts. Isn't that something? Doesn't that just blows my mind? We have no cuts. It's incredible. And no matter how we look at it, no matter what we do, we can't seem, for reasons I don't know, we can't seem to get around the fact that nobody takes us seriously. So, enough with that. Now, moving on to this next piece, and I want, by the way, we have a very, very, very nice newsletter coming out tomorrow. I trust, I hope, I beseech, I pray, I ask, I say, prithee, sign up for this new. It is a barn burn. It's going to be great. It's a hoot with a lot of references, and it is. Let me see where it is. There we go. For those of you trenchant latitudinarians, there we go. This is my thing, and this is it. Subscribe to it. Subscribe to it right now, dear friends. Subscribe to it right now. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll pull it hard. We'll pull it hard. Think of Bowman's childish act as a microcosm of the obstructionism Trump's enemies committed during his presidency. Yes, nothing will happen. All the more reason to be black-pilled regarding Anent Nietzsche. Mr. Pullitard, I say to you, you are so spot on, it's not even funny. Please do not be black-pilled. Please do not become complacent. Please do not find yourself conditioned to not think something. Please, I beg, I beseech, I entreat, I importune you, sir. Please, Will. Where there's a will, there's a lawyer. Please don't. I'm not giving up yet. I want to read this one particular piece. This is very interesting about this. And by the way, this is again from this brilliant. I spoke about this at length. This is from Mr. Kimball. You know what? I just want you to, let me just read this one line from it. Isn't it possible? This is from American Greatness. Let me give you the citation for this right away. So you can, please, I want to interview him so badly that I have asked. And of course, people I don't think will want to come on my show because I'm dangerous. As you know, I'm dangerous. I have a terrible reputation as being dangerous. Anyway, here it is right now. Let me read this one particular point. Isn't it possible that the Democrats keep inventing things to indict him, President Trump, for? Not because they think he is the most beatable candidate, but because they are terrified by his political potency and fear that, were he nominated, he might well win. That's what I thought even before I heard that RFK Jr. was thinking about running as an independent. If that happens, I suspect that Trump will not only win. If that happens, he writes, I suspect that not only Trump will win, but will do so while dealing a crushing defeat to Joe Biden or whatever puppet the committee decides to put in his place. Absolutely, positively. You do know there's good things. Mr. Pullitard, you understand there are good things happening. You do recognize the fact there are good things happening. You do understand that. This is one of the most exciting times ever. I want you to understand this. I want you to listen to me carefully. This is so what it's happening right now. Don't nowhere to look. First time I went to a hockey game, went to a live hockey game. This was years ago. I don't know where the hell I couldn't find it. Where is it? Over here. And my friend said, you gotta know where to look for it. It's over there. I said, oh, okay. I can do it with football. I can say, okay, offensive line. But you have to know what's going on because right now you're overwhelmed by this. You're overwhelmed. What is happening? Where does this go? What happened incrementally? These stories are interesting to an extent because they're funny. But look what's happening. Look what's happening. Something is very out. I guess very good news from some people. I'm not going to mention their names, who are very, very, shall we say, in the know. Good news is that our friend, Mr. Wait a minute, stop right there. stop. As we say, ashpet, which is a terrible, terrible version of this dialect. I have not seen or heard from this man since the dawn of the Rona. We were there with you, sir, during the course of this. We were in the midst. We shared this. We learned first of what you were doing in your duties as an academician in Roma. That would be Rome. For those of you who don't speak Italian like I do, Roma is a way the Italians call Rome. See, they call Roma. Roma also is a way of talking to the Zingari, or the gypsies. In any event, we talked to this man. His name is Eric Thaddeus Walters, ETW. And he writes, look for the fireworks over the next month. Anti-Pope Bergoglio's synod on synodality. Let me make sure I sign it, or I'm going to get this straight. In fact, I'm acting rather orotund, but I'm going to make sure I get to always do this. Yes, synod. Always. You see what I just did right now? I always check pronunciation. Always, even though I think I know it, I just want to make sure. Look for fireworks over next month. Anti-Pope Bergoglio. This is the Pope Frank. Anti-Pope Bergoglio's synod on synodality begins on Wednesday. I'll provide updates. I've never abandoned you, Orleans Warriors. Time zone differences and other issues complicate things. First of all, grazie mille. Welcome back. Dear friend, we went through so much as the Rona, as it was happening. Right around Rome, and interestingly enough, around was it Milan? I think it's Milan. There is a rule, and Eric, please correct me if I'm wrong, incorrect. But there is a rule that says, in order to say "made in Italy," you have to have it actually made in Italy. However, you can import anybody you want, and they had slews, passels, torrents, volumes of Chinese workers, able workers, who were pouring into Italy in order to do the leather work and this work and that, in order to maintain this made in Italy label. Has to be made there. And that's where it came from, because that's where it came. The Wu flu, as some used to joke, came from there. And that's where we watched through you. We were watching through you as it started. It's like hearing of the tsunami first. And it just brought me back just for a moment, because as this happened, those were incredible times. Incredible. Let me remind you, friends, let me also tell you something. And I want you to remember this, because it's all about perspective. I told you my friend, my physician friend, was at a hospital here, I think in the Bronx. And during the Rona, there was a code they would give out when somebody expired. And it wasn't something that alerted, it was something seemingly innocuous. But the code, he said he could not believe how many people were dying. And he's not lying. He said, I'm telling you, it was like holy. Now, granted, you can say, well, they had comorbidities, well, they were fat, well, they were this, they had asthma. Yeah. They were compromised. Still, do not ever put yourself in the position, my friends. Do not put yourself in the position where this is one of those little pens for an iPad. I like this. Do not put yourself in the position where you say, oh, it was nothing. No, it was something. Not all of it was something. Not everything that was said was something. Not everything that Fauci did was something. But don't ever think that this was just some grand, kabuki theater thing. Granted, I just want to say this. It's all perspective, my friends. It's all perspective. Okay? Anyway, Eric, it's so good to see you. Please drop me a line. Let us chat. Now, I don't know where I was. I have no idea. Oh, yes. So So here we are, and I'm listening to this stuff, and I'm walking around, and I'm trying to figure this out. I got to tell you this story. So anyway, I'm listening to Kimball. I'm listening to these wonderful lectures on, and please, Hillsdale College. God bless Hillsdale College. God bless the wonderful sanity of Hillsdale College. And he was talking about this one Polish intellectual about Marxism. So I'm thinking about this. Here we got this guy Bowman. He's a democratic socialist. What would Mr. Bowman think about the removal, the elimination of private property? What would he think? Would he like that? I don't think so. Would he want a planned economy? Would he want basically the government owning no private property? I mean, does he really want to go into the real notion of Marxism? Not this totalitarian, not you can't say this. That's a part of it. Again, part of the wash. Now, listen to this. Today, I'm right around Columbus Circle. There's a Whole Foods there. So I went to pick up some stuff. And as I came out, there's Columbus Circle where, Joe Colombo was shot in the 1971 or whatever. It's Central Park. It was the most beautiful day. I mean, people were out. It was something. 75 degrees. Gorgeous. Absolutely. People were happy. I felt the energy. When New York is really humming and buzzing, and I'm sure if you live in a big city, you get an energy. And it's great. And you feel it. I need that. Sparse surroundings. I like to be high in terms of building. I like to see lights. I like up. I like perch. I like city. I like it. I do the best. Some people don't. I like crowds. I like activity. I like movement. I like coming and going and moving and anyway. So as I'm walking out, there's a group of people, and they had signs that say "Abolish NATO." And I was just talking to a friend of mine about this. I said, "Wait a minute, this is perfect." I said, because NATO has absolutely no relevance in my life whatsoever. NATO is a complete and total waste of time. NATO is a complete and total waste of time. What does NATO have to do for me? I say nothing. Nothing. It's ridiculous. It's anachronistic. It's antediluvian. What is this, Soviet? No, there's no Soviet. Anyway. So as I looked, I'm saying, what is this group? And I'm looking, and I really couldn't get. And they're talking about the usual thing and say, oh, okay. Israel, Zionism, that kind of thing, apartheid. Okay. So it turns out it was a leftist group of folks, for lack of a better word. Bull Trader says, from our city of Big Shoulder, Chicago, USA, we love you, Lionel. Oh, God bless you. Bless you. Bless you, Bull. I wonder how my friend in the symphony is doing in Chicago. You got a toddle in town there. Chicago Chi-Town is a great, great place. Before they tried to destroy it. I hope it gets better. It's another. It's one of the. It's like one of the fingers of your hand. It's just anyway. New York, I think, is the thumb. No, it's a middle finger, I think. Anyway, thank you, Bull. So as I'm looking at this stuff, and as I see what's going on, I'm looking at this. Okay. And there's an organization called Socialist. I don't know what they were, but they look like prototypical hippies. And they're very calm. And they were expressing their opinion. And I thought to myself, okay. I thought, this is very interesting. Very interesting indeed. I said, I like this. Very, very good. Very interesting. Very fascinating. And then as I'm looking and I'm seeing what's going on, I realized, this woman came up. She said, would you like, and she had to, they have signs now with like a tube that you would wrap, what am I trying to say? Wrapping paper, like a tube, very light. I said, no, thanks. I'm not going to you're not going to see me holding a sign. I don't know who these people are. I don't know what they're about. No way. I ain't going to hold no sign. I don't know who these people are. I don't know if they're plants, federal agents, as you would might think. No way. But I did what they're saying. So anyway, I agreed with them about the NATO thing. I think there was something else that we're talking about. I thought I agree with that. They agree with that. Disagree with that. Don't have an opinion on that. But I'm thinking, can you give me a half a sign? Can you give me a quarter of a sign? No, no such thing as that. And I thought, isn't it funny that I represent this is kind of the lefty that I remember. Anti-war, anti-imperialism. We are imperialists. I went to this whole thing today about what America. I don't know how many 700 bases or all that. Anyway, I realized this is good. This is good. This is their opinion. They're able to say whatever they want. It's peaceful. This reminds me of the old days. They look like old hippies. They look like they were just regular folks. You know, they had the tie-dye. There's a New York look. And it's normally somebody like in their 70s, which is close to mine. And, you know, they have the little bun, little man with the chignon, you know, with the little bun. He's bald. He's got maybe a ponytail. Big buttons. They love buttons. And they look like, you know, like radicals of the 60s. They're too young for that. But in any event, because they're closer to my age. But the point is, it was great. And I agreed with them. And if I told them, I'm saying, by the way, I agree with you about NATO. And I think Trump should be president. They would probably say, what are you talking about? And I would love to rap with them. Remember rap sessions? I'd love to rap with them and tell them, no, you don't understand. What I'm suggesting is what you're suggesting. This is the thing here. Oh, this is so interesting. Do you understand what's happening? Do you see this? I look at this and go, it's interesting. Bowman, funny. It's funny. People love it. They love the story. They love it. But it's not unimportant because something's going to happen. Bobby Kennedy. Donald Trump. So anyway, good news, as I was saying. Now I remember. Good news. I heard from a friend of mine, very well connected. I'm not going to mention his name. That Rudy Giuliani is doing very, very, very much better. Very well. He's his health is good. He is kind of taking control of his, I don't want to say his life, but he looked like he was maybe hitting the hooch a little too hard. And anyway, he's doing great. Which is wonderful. He's excited about that. The word I have it is that Trump is absolutely not only not excited. And I want to explain this to you. And this is what I want you to explain to somebody else. When you are a billionaire, Elon Musk, there's a lot of billionaires. There are more billionaires here than you can imagine. More than you can imagine. A lot of billionaires. And they're different people. Their problems are bigger. The way they handle things are better. Their sense of a reaction. And Trump and other people like this, as it was explained to me, and it kind of makes sense, live in chaos. Everything is chaos. Chaos. Screaming chaos. Wait a minute, ladies and gentlemen, he's back. Just a second. Dear Lionel Nation and Lynn's Warriors family members, I lost hope in 2020. Last chance, which is real, depends on USA voters in 2024. 80% of the world, which is not the collective West, watches, hopes, prays, and demands that you awake and engage. You know, it's funny you say that, Eric. And by the way, thank you for your courtesy and kindness. Let me say this qualifiedly, okay? This is something, there is a feeling that I have not felt since, well, 20 is a different story. My friend, again, grazie mille. Grazie mille. Do you remember, Eric, 2020, right around the COVID, lost direction, lost hope, lost spunk, fear, political motivation, the trajectory, the momentum was replaced by fear, a torpor, seclusion, um, 7 o'clock, ringing the bells, masks, getting which vaccine, or worried and getting scared, and what are we doing next, and then PPP, and what about this, and then jobs haven't worked, and can't go into the building, and what do we do, and so politics took a completely different thing. And by the way, Eric, as you know this, from a behavioral point of view, if you're a behaviorist, as I think we all are, you look at this and you recognize the fact that we have learned so much about this. We have learned about this. We have learned how to act. See, this is one of the things I talked to you about, this wonderful, the idea of crowd theory and how people work. People were writing this and noting, do Americans get panicked? Do they march? Do they go outside? What do they do? How do they react? How does the crime work? How does it not work? We learned a lot. America is different today. America is different. I want to find this one. I don't want to keep quoting from this, but Kimball was so good. I want to read this to you. Hang on. Why are the here we go. Why are the Dems, again, this is Mike Kimball, it's from that site. Why are the Dems, he writes, going hell for leather after Trump, saddling him with 4 preposterous sets of indictments in different locales? The Dems are Machiavellian geniuses. The Dems are Machiavellian geniuses faction says that it is because they know that each indictment strengthens the resolve of the Trump base, thus increasing the likelihood of his nomination, after which they will come down on him like a ton of bricks. But I think that the ton of bricks has already been offloaded. Eric, this is to you. Listen to this. But I think that the ton of bricks has already been offloaded. No, grab them by the Poussoir video clip, Russian collusion hoax, or conversation with Ukrainian politicians is going to shock the voting public. Trump's millions of voters already know the worst. The Dems have been hammering him for some 6 years now, but to no avail. So go back to your original thesis, your question, your query. Will things be corrected in 2024? Yes. And the answer is, I believe yes, because we have seen it. Eric and my dear friends, as you know this, when people in war, people in battle, at the height of when you're running and the fear and the adrenaline, there have been people who have lost a leg or an arm. Literally, there's one scene from Saving Private Ryan where he picks up his arm, and because it's happened quickly, there's no registration yet of pain. Pain sensors aren't kicking in yet. It's beyond pain, because you just basically, when you take something out, there's nothing to feel pain anymore, because this is phantom pain, is a different story. Anyway, you take you're in shell shock. You're in shock. You don't know what's happening. Nothing. It's not resiliency. It's you don't feel it. That's what we are. We've been in battle. Eric, we've been in battle. We've been in battle the whole time now. We've been in battle since 2015, since he announced. This is 8 years, going on 9 years of this. Think about it. We've been in battle the whole time. We've seen it all. We've been through it. And I promise you, nobody who was with Trump before has left him. Let me say that again. Nobody's left. We have more people on board. And by the way, I'm not saying this because I'm pro-Trump. I'm pro chemotherapy to destroy this Democratic cancer. Let me say this again to you. There are more people on board right now. We are stronger than we were then. And oddly enough, and amazingly enough, that's why Jack Smith wants a gag order. They're doing everything. They're throwing not only the kitchen sink, but they're throwing the sofa. There is no. This has no comparison. This has no comparison in the real world. Nothing. It has no comparison in the real world. Do you recognize that fact? Do you understand that fact? This is the biggest thing ever. What did the Democrats do? What are they doing? They have no idea. They're trying to say, does he walk down the baby steps? Does he wear his rubber shoes? Does he wear his athletic shoes? Should he be? Because remember, like I told you before, from an insider who told me the biggest fear of the Biden administration is that he needs a walker. Everybody else has said he needs a walker for his own. And we're not talking Johnny Walker. We're talking, a walker. And they said we cannot have our candidate use a walker. But that's what he needs. That's why they're so afraid. They're petrified of this. It's done. He's finished. And I told you about Gavin Newsom. When did I tell you about Gavin Newsom? Forever. And don't rule out Gretchen Whitmer. And it's not going to be Michelle Obama. It's not going to be Michelle Obama. Stop it. It's not going to be Michelle Obama. She's enjoying her time. She's out on her boat. Walking around with Spielberg and Tom Hanks. Now, you know that they arranged for those pictures. Why they did this, I have no idea. That's all I'm going to say. I don't know why they do this. I don't know what the purpose. Remember that scene where they were hugging Bill when Bill and Hillary, it was like a waterfall or something, and they had their bathing suits. Why do they do this? You'll never see Trump like that. Never. Remember Nixon on Key Biscayne? He walks around with his suit. He's got wingtips on the beach. This guy was the best. He nothing. Jimmy Carter did his whole thing. Reagan did it, with I'm a horseman and all that kind of jazz. But anyway, this is an incredible time right now. They don't know. They're seriously. They're saying, what do we do? Now here's another thing. There was another article about more retail theft, more mass. By the way, Eric, I don't know if they have that I don't think they have, maybe they do. In Italy, I don't think they have people coming in and stealing. That'd be the last place I want to do, walk in and start taking stuff out of stores from a bunch of Italians. You know what I mean? I don't think they'd cotton to that too well. But I was listening to an article or somebody discussed, they said, you know why Costco doesn't have problems like this? Costco doesn't have any problems. You know why? Costco doesn't have any. You know why? What? It's really interesting. There's one way to go in and one way to go out. And you can't get out unless you have a receipt, and there are people standing there and they will not let you out. If you try to run out, if you try to grab a bunch of stuff at Costco and run out, they close the door, they lock the door, they got one door, and that's it. And you can't get out. Is that it? Is that simple? And it's not necessarily because of their political ideology. It's just the system is like you can't get out. So grab all the stuff, the door's closed, where are you going? Open the door. No. Yes. No. And by the way, under the statutes, that's theft. You don't have to necessarily walk out, but you have evinced the requisite intent for manufacturing, asportation, that is larceny, retail or otherwise, but still, it's simple. Now, you know what I'm thinking? Maybe I'm a conspiracy theory. You know me, Mr. Tinfoil. I'm thinking, how much are they making with their insurance? Huh? Ladies and gentlemen, hold it. The Brad, I was thinking about you. The Brad says, wanted to ask you, how did President Cleveland win 2 different times? And why did he lose to President Harrison and then decide to want to come back and win over President Harrison? And what was involved in making that support stay strong? Well, first of all, Brad, thank you. I hope things are doing well where you are. Why would somebody want to do this? I want you, Brad, to go back and listen. By the way, all the information is there. He was one of 3 presidents. No, he's the 4th president, I believe. It was Martin Van Buren, Millard Fillmore, and Teddy Roosevelt, who tried after they were president to come back, and they just failed. And Grover Cleveland won. Why did he want to come back? Probably because he kind of liked being president, I would imagine. But what's interesting about this is that for some reason or another, and this is the strangest thing. I think the best question that you ask is why hasn't there been? Why, when people leave, especially when they've only left after 1 term, why don't people want to come back for unfinished business? Why? Why don't they want to come back for unfinished business? Why aren't they doing that? Why? Why don't they feel like I have to do something? Teddy Roosevelt, don't forget, like an idiot, like a chidrul, he decided he was going to say, I'm not going to run again. I'm going to run 1 term. Well, he just declared himself a lame duck, and it was the dumbest thing anybody's ever done. And his cousin, Franklin, was considered, you don't have it. You don't have it. You don't have it. It's your TR, that's the guy. Well, TR was a failure. He did it 1 time. He was nothing. FDR was, there's nothing like that before. And understand something about a lot of stuff what you've heard about FDR is true. As there was, and listen to me very carefully, and this is why today I'm listening to a lot of intellectuals and people who were part of the actual communism and Marxism during the Soviet Union days when it was really active. There was a time, the zeitgeist, Brad, the zeitgeist, where socialism and uber leftist and the like, and Eleanor Roosevelt, wow. Remember, she had her girlfriend. FDR had his who was it, Mercer, his girlfriend. There was also the story where it was believed that Eleanor may have had, Eleanor, by the way, this is Franklin's cousin or TR's cousin or something. They mocked her. She always felt ugly. She was just scarred after the Mercy thing, or there was never any love or whatever. She basically was in love with a woman. It's a tragic story, but they were as you would say, as left as you could possibly be during the time. What do you think the whole New Deal was? Now, granted, some people say that got us out of the Depression, but that was classic. If that isn't socialism in a benevolent way, I don't know what is. By the way, did you ever hear the story about how many people believe that FDR was poisoned? Did you ever hear that? And I'm going to tell you one thing right now. The biggest, let me see if I can rephrase this. The most whitewashed individual in American history, well, and tangential history, is Winston Churchill. If you think those people were our friends from Eddie the Seventh, I believe, Vicky's son, who basically got us into World War I. Do you know what perfide Albion means? The perfidious Albion, the perfidy of the Albion, the treachery of the Brits. La perfide Albion. This is. How about Tertius Gaudens? This wonderful game theory, where you can hear the desperation to get FDR into World War II. You gotta help us. You've got to help us. What are you gonna do? Help us. FDR says, I can't do that. I can't do that. What do you? We just had the war to end all wars. I told him we were. Isolationists. They don't want to have anything to do with it. You've got Great Britain, France, Russia. We don't need it. Plus, he says, I don't want to be hanging around with these commies. No way. And at the time, I don't want to say use the term anti-Semitic, but a lot of people could not, nor would they be a part of going to war because of mistreatment of Jews, gypsies, homosexuals, whatever, by whoever it was. Look at the St. Louis. Remember that tragedy? And what was it? What was it that got us into World War II? What was it? Winston's begging and the Lend-Lease? No, Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor. That was it. Tripartite agreement, we're in. Now, let me talk to you about this. Anybody ever hear about a story about they say, and I'm giving you a very, very, and I'm not saying this is true. I'm just telling you what I'm hearing, what I've heard throughout the years, that the story is that, remember how bad, now, of course, FDR had terrible health. FDR, age of death he was like 63 years old. 63. I got 3 years on FDR. 2 years. 63. When he was at the end, 63. So when he was at Warm Springs in Georgia, kind of calming down, apparently there was somebody there who was doing a portrait of him. Somebody there, the story was a painter. And as you know, painters have paint boxes. And what were paints made up of then? Lead, cyanide, very toxic stuff. So she's got her thing, and she's got the water or the paint, and maybe there's some tea or who knows, but we're doing a little bit here. And at the time this happened, the story goes, forgive me, I'm going to do some double checking. At the time I heard this, Stalin, when he said, wait a minute, he did what? And Stalin heard, tell me that Stalin either asked or was told the circumstances around the death, but he said, I'm going to send, I think it was Gromyko. He's my expert on poisons. I'm going to go look at the body. We're leaving right now. And Eleanor says, you're not coming anywhere near this. I hate you, or whatever it was, because he was you would think one commie to another, but he was, anyway. That's the story. Years later, it was Elliot, I think his son was doing an article, and I think he met with Stalin, and he said, I was going to bring Gromyko, and told Elliot that story. That they whacked him. Now, first of all, do I love stories like that? I think they're interesting. Do I know them to be true? No. But remember what Marshall McLuhan said. Little lies are very hard to keep quiet. But big lies are easy because of the incredulity. Same thing with stories. The more unbelievable the story, the more incredible it is, the easier it is to keep quiet. Ladies and gentlemen, our good friend Will Politard said Alexander Hamilton maintained a relationship for years with fellow revolutionary John Lorenz, to whom he wrote love letters. Washington encouraged Hamilton and Lorenz to share a bunk while at camp. That is fascinating. Well, I'm going to research that tonight. You do know also that the story of Abraham Lincoln and his law partner, who was it? Was it Benjamin Harrison? Who was our first gay president? It was Benjamin Harrison, wasn't it? Yeah, I'm sorry, James Buchanan, 15th president. Yep, he was. Remember, they called him his he may have actually bedded his vice president. Not that it matters. Go back and look at the story. Let me explain something to you. Look at JFK's friend. Let me see. JFK. What was his name? His name was Lem Billings. Lem. They were roommates at Chute Prep. They were drawn together by a lust for life, a penchant for practical jokes, and jealousy of their higher achieving older brothers. Lem. Look at this from Irish Central. There's pictures of JFK and his friend. 3 decades long friendship with former schoolmate Lem Billings. Now, supposedly, or supposedly, as people say, our friend Joe Kennedy, the father, said, I don't care really what he does, so long as he doesn't get any woman pregnant or whatever, but doesn't matter to me. They were like a 3-peckered goat, as they say. They were satyrs. They were satiriacists. These were rakes, roués. Sex meant anytime, anywhere. Jackie, name it. There is one book that I've got that is so, oh my God. Jackie and her father, Blackjack. Ooh, because he liked Lee more. Oh, I'm gonna watch what I'm saying here. It's just, you have no earthly idea. The higher the office, the higher the rank, the higher the family, the higher the sense of self-worth, the more people believe they can get away with anything, and the more they believe that decorum and normalcy and rational thought are somehow not as critical. See what I'm saying? Because they figure we're better. Let me tell you something. Eyes wide shut. Satanic sex clubs. In the old days, rumors had it, Skull and Bones. In the old days, not, or maybe some more radical versions of it. The ceremonies involved onanistic practices, and the idea was that you want to do something where I have to show not only me being more vulnerable, but where you've got something on me and I've got something on you. This goes back forever. From rights and secret organizations and the ultra uber, or so they believe, the amount of inbreeding. Oh, it's. Let me see if I can explain this to you. And our friend Eric will tell you with the Medicis and the days of going back to these incredible Venetian conspiracies. I mean, they are. There is no. When you think about Italian, a lot of times we use the term as Italian here, and we think of Uncle Joe, Uncle Vinny here. No. When you have companies, there's a group of people. You have to have a family-owned company that's at least 200 years old. And I think in Italy, there's more than, like the Antinori family with their Chiantis or their wines, Beretta, the family, age, provenance, royalty. When royalty, look at the whole notion of the royal family, the Habsburg jaw, inbreeding, recessive genes, homozygotic inbred. I mean, this wild. This is wild. Now, I love this stuff because what you hear in history and what you think about in history is not even close to what really is going on. Like the truth. What you hear, what I hear, what we're taught in school, is what history wants us to believe, what historians want us to believe. It's great. And one of the things which is so interesting about, believe it or not, Satanism is also control. And humans love mysticism, symbology. Eric will tell you, semiotics. Our good friend our good friend, Mr. Brad, the Brad. Look at what ceremony does, and look at the connection that people have to, oh my God, just ceremonies and hand gestures and this and clapping and I loved, of course, I'm a retired Catholic, but the I used to love the symbology, the bread, the wine, the consecration, the Eucharist, ablution, so to speak, the differences of the story. How nobody really, even the Bible itself, who Mary Magdalene was, and look at the notion about going back to Alexander Hamilton, as you brought up, Brad. Alexander Hamilton had a slave. There was a society for manumission that he excluded himself from in terms of membership. Do you really think that Abraham Lincoln had anything to do, any abiding desire to end slavery? When you're brought up in this, when this is what you have seen, when you're brought up in a country that has capital punishment and hanging and prisons and this, you just say, well, that's the way it is. One day when prisons or whatever are outlawed, they're going to say, you allowed that? Well, it seems it's anathema to us, and for good reason. But do you think, how many times do I have to read that quote from Lincoln who says, I don't care if they get rid of the slaves, have the slaves, I got to save the Union. That's what it's about. And all these people after the fact are saying that the Civil War was about slavery. Do you think any of those people, Pickett's charge of this and that, and Vicksburg and Antietam, do you think they were going to, come on for slavery, guys, come on? Are you kidding me? This doesn't demean it, but it's a balance, it's perspective. What does it really mean? I'm still trying to figure out the Vietnam War. I still don't understand it. I don't understand it. Firefighters will say, do not run into that house. Why? You're going to die. Let it burn. But we're firemen. We're not going to survive. The house it's gone. We can't save it. But we have the equipment. We can't save. Firemen know that. Firemen know, well, that's what war is. You can't go to this. This is a civil war. We're not going to be. But it's hubris. It's Johnson. Do you know what was occurring? Anybody know what was occurring the day that Kennedy was killed? At that moment, do you know what was happening? At that moment, on that day, Life magazine, I think, and others were swarming in. They were going to take Johnson down with the Billy Saul Estes and all his other stuff. It was on that day. And they were going to basically put together like a Woodward and Bernstein before it happened. And they were ready to pounce on the day Kennedy was killed. At that moment. Pretty interesting, isn't it? Coincidental? Coinky dink? What do you think about that? Interesting, isn't it? Tell that to Bill O'Reilly. Isn't that something? Coincidence sometimes happens, rarely happens. But sometimes it does, but rarely. When the cause, you talk about a distraction, when all of a sudden the person, imagine, I think it was life, you're sitting around the table, you're assigning your ages, you've got this, you got bank records, you got all these people, and you're going to blow this thing up. Johnson is going to be brought down, and lo and behold, guess what happens? Guess what happens? At the very, very moment, that you're about to lower the boom, the guy you're about to rag on is just now the president. Think about that. Sal Monella says, I love the direction you're going in, Lionel. Posterity will judge the youth today correct about one thing, the criminality of going to war, unless your object is saving innocents from genocide. War is, by the way, Sal, thank you so much. Grazie mille. War is oftentimes necessary. There are some things that you have to do to stop war. I am telling you right now, Hitler was a bad dude. That had to be stopped. However, the story of it is not exactly the way. We came in at the last minute. And what nobody wants to understand, what nobody cares to understand, is that what Russia did, and by the way, you couldn't have had that without a despotic, crazed lunatic like Stalin. Stalin didn't give a damn about anybody. Stalin just kept throwing people, just sending them directly. They were coming after. It was the most amazing thing in the world. They were coming after what am I trying to say? What am I trying to say? Would somebody tell me what I'm trying to say? They were coming after these folks. Let me see if I can rephrase this in English this time. Stalin said, "Oh, Barbarossa, let's go. Come on. Wave after wave." What was the story? Sal, maybe you know this. Maybe you know this. Brad, maybe you know this. Eric, maybe you know this. What was the story that said that in 1921? No, was it 21? Let me read this to you. I don't want to get see what I'm doing now? This is called research. Soviet men killed. I think it was 1921. This blows my. Hang on. Give me a second. Because sometimes these numbers. This is the story. 80% of Soviet men born in 1923, and they refute this back and forth. There's Reddit columns on this, but 80% of males born in 1923 were killed in World War II. Now you can argue, well, maybe it was because of famine, maybe because of this, but 80% of men born in 1923. The Soviet general who won the war, his name was Zhukov. Georgy Zhukov. He was great. The most important military commander during World War II. He got it. And you know who my favorite one is? And you're not going to like this, but I tell you this. Vo Wen Jap. He lived to be 100 and how old was he when he died? I think he was 100 and how old was this feller? Hang on a minute. Oh, he was unbelievable. What is it? Come on. Oh. Nope. Come on. 102. I'm sorry. I've got to be precise. I got to get that. Let me tell you about this. In my prior life, I love war. Now, let me explain this to you. I don't love or I hate war. But what you got to do is you say, okay, now we got to get a general. General knows the terrain. Matthew Ridgway saved Americans. O.P. Smith, Marine, logistical genius. General Jap. He had an expression of Vietnam. He said, grab them by the buckle, by the belt, pull them close. If I pull you close, you can't send in fire, but you can't sing in artillery. You can't. You're like, and then gone. There were people who said, they were there a year, but they never saw the enemy. Who is the enemy? I mean, it was just, they rewrote warfare. Patton, he was an F up. I think you know what I'm talking about. Who during World War II said, I'm not going to sit around and wait. I'm going after you. He took the Third Army and they went after people. They said, this guy is coming after us. Curtis LeMay used planes as firebombing. I mean, That's why Trump does these things. He does things differently. Let me tell you something. No matter what you do, and I know we're on the subject of war, but it's kind of interesting. The first thing is we got to ask is, okay, who's the enemy? What kind of war is it? What's it like? What's the weather like? Remember during the first part of the Ukrainian war, they were talking about the fact that it was going to be mud and it was going to rain or it was cold or that. That's critical. Where are they? They're there. Okay. They're there. We don't have to transfer anybody. It's on the border. It's right there. That cuts everything down. Salmonella writes, there was a Soviet general on whom the SS thugs Mauthausen performed a craniotomy without anesthesia, and people still doubt the existence of Satan. The world can be so dark and evil. Sal, I thank you. You do not need Satan to have people who show and evince a depravity. Albert Fish, the werewolf of Wisteria, just one. There are others as well. You don't need Satan for this. You don't. I thank you, by the way. Oh, I should thank you for everybody. I don't want to in any way debate you on this one, but do not think that man is not able to evince this type of horror, and don't think that you have to bring in Satan. We do this on our own. Oh, no. We do this on our own. I'm changing the subject again, but it's one of my favorite subjects. I want to know what evil looks like. If I sat down with you and I said, and you said, let's say we're throwing a few back. You're getting lit, getting waxed, getting gooned, okay? Or as we say in West Tampa, you were arrebatado. And you are talking and you're lubricated and you become lubricious and concupiscent and you're speaking. And I'm saying, what really turns you on? You might talk about a variety of things that you may not have talked about. You might talk about whips and chains and Great Danes, Hospital for Life. Remember that great song, the humming song, Martin Mull? You might chandeliers. But if I told you, what about terror? You say, what? What about seeing the look of terror? And then you would say, I don't even know what you're talking about. Okay, stop. Do you know how many people would say, yeah? You know how many people there are right now? And they've never done it. A lot of them are just chicken. Do you know how many sadists we have in the world right now? Take a guess. I don't have the exact number. Do you know people who, if allowed, who are beyond horrible? Do you have any clue? Anything? Have you ever kind of been around these people before? You wouldn't believe what is happening. And you wouldn't believe the amount of terrible stuff that we see on a regular basis. And it wouldn't be, with all due respect, my dear friend, we don't need the devil for that. We don't need Satan. What's even scarier is how many people there are like that. And with children, imagine that. Not only do you, sometimes people can look the other way and they say, I don't like doing this, but I'll do it. Okay, fine. There are executioners and people in war and all that. But what if you liked it? There are more people like that than you could ever imagine. And you know what? They've always been like that. Because man is evil. Man is evil. I don't want to break it to you. Evil. And if ever you said, okay, guess what? There's no more law. What? I promise you, you wonderful people watching right now, if I said to you, guess what? For the next, 48 hours, Anything you do, whatever the period, a week, 40 hours, anything you do, you will not be charged with it. You might steal some stuff. You might speed. You might, I don't know. You might do some might do, buy some dope but I promise you, the majority of people listening right now, there might be a few, but majority of people would not say, let's go on a rampage. Come on, let's go. From the days of Charlie Starkweather all the way back, just go back. You don't need Satan for that. Let me ask you something. You're not gonna like this. And don't say the word. Don't say the word. Wait a minute. Hold it. Eric Thaddeus Walter says, paraphrasing Val Kilmer's cameo in True Romance, always loved you, Lionel. Always have, always will. A presto. A presto, Eric. Thank you. There's remember the one, was it True Romance? Was that the great, was that with Christopher Walken? Was that great scene with Christopher Walken and Dennis Hopper where he goes, you're Sicilian. Remember that scene? Wonderful. One of the great, great, great moments of cinematic history. And by the way, thank you. Your kindness tonight. I can't believe I didn't rob a bank during COVID. Do you know how many, during 9/11, the stuff that was supposedly looted? World Trade Center, all the stuff, gold and jewelry stores. I don't want to say this, but firemen, not all. Dead people. You go into a house, nobody there. Who's looking? You got a lot of people walking around. You know, again, this goes back also to the crowd thing. This is why Gustave Le Bon. This is why Le Bon. This is why ochlocracies are so important, because when you're in groups of people and there's no sense of order, you do things that the group does. You lose yourself individually and you become part of this thing. It's like, it's not my morality. They're doing it. It's war. That's what we do. What GIs did in Vietnam and other wars, and Vietnam did. Atrocities to girls, people, the dehumanization of the enemy. When you're telling them they're dirt, they're nothing, giving them names, and you refer to them as all kinds of stuff. And then, not only that, you're 18, 19, 20 years old, and you have not seen one. I'll never forget this one. So, have you read Dispatches by Michael Herr? Oh, man. I think Apocalypse Now was based on it. That is, they say, one of the best ones ever. It's great. When people have had the peel. This one guy, I'll never forget this. He came in. He had been in the jungle or whatever it is. He had to cut like with almost like with shears, cut the clothes off because it had just adhered. Buttons froze, melded, just melted and melded into this thing. He said he bathed later on, used an entire bar of soap. You ever do that? A bar of soap? He did. But when he went to eat, he walked in, he sat down, he got one of everything, every drink, and he sat by himself, and he had his rifle next to him. Now, he's in the mess hall. Everybody else is clean or whatever. Here's this guy who's been out there, and he had his rifle next to him. And they kind of said, we're not, I forget, at arms or whatever the particular phrase is. And he said, let him go. And he was just scooping everything in because he didn't know how long. They didn't have time to eat. At any moment they could, have a firefight or whatever it was. And he looked up and he saw their look of him, and he lost. And he says, I'm an animal. There was a mother one time who went to a general or some officer and said, I gave you my son. I don't know who this is. You brought this. He's a monster. I don't know who he is. It's when you talk about war, see, I'm against this whole thing. It's got to be done sometimes. But what it does, and somebody explained to me one time, PTSD, the hardest thing is they had the highest rates of PTSD in the Iraq war, and they never even saw combat. You don't necessarily have to see combat. But somebody said one time, imagine you're in the field, imagine you are part of this life and death, and you are with a group of men. You love them. It's not homoerotic, but you sleep together, and sometimes at night they hold each other, just for, say, Three Dog Night, for body warmth. It's cold, and you need each other. You've never needed anybody more than your life. You are melded. Again, that word. You are a unit. You are one person. And you leave that, and you come back, and then you're sitting in a chaise longue and want to go to Walmart. Come on, it's over. And you're saying, how do I go from these heights of adrenaline and importance and life and death and criticality and focus? And then here I am with this one guy lost it. He had a list. His wife gave him a list. He had to go to like the store, and he said, I can't do this. That took him out. I understand it completely. So I don't, how do I say this? I don't glamorize it. I don't glorify it. There's a lot of folks, I think, sometimes on these YouTube war shows that I guess it's important what they do, but I think they hurt the cause. In any event, I've spoken too long. I've spoken far too long. Eric Thaddeus Walters, dear friend, let us reconnect or reconvene. You are part of this, part of our connection. I hope, tell me, I'll learn about this. I hope that your travel and your tours are going splendidly. Will Pouletard, thank you. Salmonella, thank you. The Brad, 1187, thank you, dear friend. Bull Trader, I said, thank you immensely. I heard the other day, I was watching, I think somebody sent me this. It was AJ, Mr. Jones. He does that show. And he had on Mike Lindell, of all people. And it was so sad to hear somebody talk about this. This infuriates me more than you can imagine. When I hear people say that they can't say something and that they're going through this hell because he dared. The only reason is because he liked Trump. Now, whatever his lawsuits are with other people, I can't control that. I'm not familiar with that. But I do know that this started specifically because he dared. He thought he lived in a free country. So that's why we do this for him. And he helps us as well. MyPillow.com, promo code Lionel. MyPillow.com, promo code Lionel. Wonderful products. Great man. Great stuff. Again, I think people should be able to say whatever they want and be free and unfettered from this abuse. That's simple. All right, dear friends, this was a barn burner, 1 hour and 23 minutes. Do you know how lucky you are? 1 hour and 23 minutes. And I would rather be with you than the finest people in the world. And I mean that sincerely, and I think you know that. I think you know that comes from the heart. In any event, my friends, have a great and a glorious night. We will see you tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. sharp. I thank you. And until then, remember these words, this valedictory, this adios, this arrivederla. The monkey's dead. The show's over. Sue ya. Da-da. Let me try to hit the button this time.